did you receive the Holy Ghost? And he goes, man, if that's not the Holy Ghost, I don't know what is. And I started laughing. I said, so you heard yourself speak in tongues? And he said, absolutely. He's like, that was the most amazing thing ever. He was just so excited. And I said, well, help me pray for our friend here. And so he laid his hands on her, and we're praying for her, and God touched her. And she told me later, because I asked her the same thing. I said, did you hear yourself speaking in tongues? And she said, well, you know, the music was loud. It was hard for me to hear. But she said, I felt as though God had got a hold of my tongue. She said, I believe that I spoke in tongues. She said, I couldn't really hear myself because of how loud everything was. But she says, I know for a fact that God had done that. And she said, the best way I can explain it, and this was actually 2 days later that I asked her, you know, how would you explain it? And she said, the best way I can explain it, she said, Hank, I walked up there and I felt completely empty inside. Completely empty. And she said, when the power of God hit me, when the Holy Ghost hit me, she said, it felt like the most refreshing water was being poured inside of me. And she said, when I began to speak in tongues, she said, I felt refreshed. And she said, it's been 2 days and I'm still feeling so refreshed and so thankful. She said, me and my friends, we have been talking about this experience. She said, in fact, he won't even shut up about it. He keeps talking about it so much. She said, it was one of the best experiences that I've ever had, and I'm just so grateful for it. And I told her, I said, you know, the way you have explained it is very biblical. Because anytime someone receives the Holy Ghost in the Bible, we see the word feel, we see the word full of the Holy Ghost. And that's exactly how she described it. She said she felt hollow, but as if God started feeling her. And then the refreshing part, I said, is biblical too, because Jesus says that it would be like a well of living water that springs up out of us. So I told her, I said, the way you have explained it is extremely biblical, and I'm so glad that you had that experience.